Welcome to Your Health is Wealth podcast. The podcast invites you to embrace the profound truth that your health is your wealth. I'm your host, Kristen Burke. This podcast aims to take you on a journey into the landscape of alternative medicine, integrative practices, and holistic healing options that empower you to thrive in mind, body, and spirit. Today in our segment titled Beyond Burnout, Navigating Women's Health in the Corporate Arena. Together, we'll explore the challenges faced by women in the corporate world, the impact on their health, and how they've been able to overcome health issues. In this fast-paced and demanding corporate environment, burnout has become an all too common phenomenon, affecting individuals across all levels in the workplace. However, the impact on women's health is particularly profound. Juggling multiple roles, battling stereotypes, and striving for perfection often affect their physical and mental well-being. For many women, the journey through burnout is marked by exhaustion, stress, and a sense of overwhelm. The constant pressure to excel at work while managing household responsibilities can lead to sleep disturbances, anxiety, and even depression. Moreover, societal expectations and workplace cultures that undervalue self-care only exacerbate these challenges. Amidst these struggles, there are stories of resilience and triumph. Women who have faced burnout head-on have emerged more robust, healthier, and empowered. They've recognized the importance of prioritizing their well-being and have taken proactive steps to reclaim their health. Hey everyone, I am very excited to introduce 3 guests that we have on our podcast episode number 2. They're going to share their stories with their workplace stress experiences and the impact on their health, and also how they were able to overcome those challenges. So first we have Jenny Lazo. She's an 18-year ex-corporate marketer turned entrepreneur. She's a wellness advocate, yoga teacher, Reiki master, and sound healing practitioner. And she's the founder of Divine Pearl Collective, a holistic wellness membership-based community offering accessible business and marketing mentorship and execution support. Next, we have Marianne Becker. She's a seasoned tech executive with over a decade of experience developing high-performing engineering teams at renowned startups such as New Relic and MindBody. Currently, she leads a community of female tech founders in the Bay Area called Women's Founders Bay. She's also running Upward Ventures, a pioneering AI startup incubator in the Silicon Valley. In this role, she collaborates closely with founders to build their MVPs from the ground up. Next, we have Anu Sharp. She's a seasoned professional with over 15 years of experience in technology leadership, product management, and business development. She's the driving force behind her business, Samarv AI Lab. She's also the co-founder and CEO. She's responsible for spearheading the company's mission to incubate new products and to provide AI advisory services, propelling products to market. During her tenure at Intel, she demonstrated her leadership skills in heading AI workloads, and this was instrumental in building and managing multi-million-dollar AI products and projects for industry giants. She's also an advocate for diversity. She co-chaired the Women in Intel Forum and mentored young female leaders. Her contributions extend to UC Berkeley's Smart Village program, resulting in the first model Smart Village in India. So let's welcome Jenny, Marianne, and Anu. Thank you so much for joining me today and discussing this very important topic in regards to workplace stress. And we know that workplace stress can exist for everybody, right? Men and women. But women face a unique challenge, having to wear multiple hats, such as mothers, partners, taking care of the household, and then potentially corporate leaders, coworkers, managing staff, managing workflow, managing projects. It takes its toll on us. And so I'd love to hear from all of you. You have unique experiences and amazing stories to share with the collective. I'd love to start with you, Anu, if you wouldn't mind sharing just your overall experience with the workplace, how it impacted health. Walk us through that journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Crystal. Thank you for having me here. I would say I used to take a lot of pride in my work, and I do. And professional success is a big motivator for me, like many of our listeners. However, like the demanding nature of the job and constant pressure to outperform took a toll on my physical and mental well-being, especially after I was back from my maternity leave of 2.5 months. I had a toddler at home and a newborn to take care of. Balancing work demands with the needs of my newborn was particularly very taxing, especially considering my struggles with endometriosis and postpartum anxiety at the same time. Well, flexible work hours were a benefit new moms used to get in my previous companies. However, the team needs to respect that. Like many times, it's the benefits, there are a lot of benefits in the company, like how it has been implemented in the teams, which matters a lot. During that time, I think I faced subtle form of discriminations, sometimes being ignored in meetings because they felt I was busy and taking care of my newborn. And slowly, I also realized that I was getting passed over for many key projects. The impact of those challenges extended beyond my professional life, and that deeply affected my family dynamics and well-beings as well. I think the strain of juggling work and motherhood, coupled with the stress of navigating a male-dominated workplace, that took a toll on my mental being. During that time, I tried to establish certain boundaries by having a very strict work hours. I also tried to prioritize self-care and alternative medicines, and I really found benefit while doing that. Prioritizing self-care activities like exercises, mindfulness, yoga, and seeking age-old Ayurvedic treatment for physical and mental well-being helped me a lot to overcome the challenges during that time.
That seems to be, fortunately, more common than not from what I've heard from many women. In fact, when I put out the inquiry of who might be interested in talking about this and their journey, there was a very large response. Women who wanted to tell their story on how the workplace challenged their health in so many ways. Marianne, did you have similar experiences with the startups that you were working on?
So my experience was very unique because it happened during COVID. So I had given birth on March 2020 when all of the COVID shutdowns started to happen. So that added a big layer of stress. And I had a toddler at home who was 3 at the time. My issue with was returning to work only after 4 months in a pandemic when there was almost no childcare available. So at that point, I was head of engineering for the product marketing team at MindBody, and I was managing over 50 engineers in 3 different time zones. So in SF, in New York, and Pune. So I had to manage a toddler, a newborn, and over 50 engineers while having only 4 months to recover from a very difficult childbirth. And I think for me, what really impacted me is the guilt I was feeling all the time. When I wasn't working, I was feeling guilty for not working. And when I wasn't with my kids, I was feeling guilty for not being with my kids. And that just impacted my mental health. And I was pretty stressed out all the time. And because of that guilt, I also never allowed myself to take any break and focus on myself. But also, I was really worried about COVID happening because I have a newborn at home and we didn't know back then how it affected childbirth. So it was the perfect storm that I experienced, and it was a very difficult time.
Wow, I can't imagine. It was tough for a lot of people during that time frame. And then going through being pregnant and childbirth and trying to sift through all the information that's out there. What do I do? It's almost like Simon says, take 2 steps forward, now 1 step back kind of thing, right? Step over to the left, step over to the right. There wasn't a clear path for any of us. And so I empathize for what you both went through, especially when involving children. And that's such an important time when you're pregnant, when you're a mom, and it's a new being coming into the world, and you're trying to give them the best start that you can, but also you have passion with your profession. I want to give that my all. And that guilt, gosh, I understand that completely. And I'm sure the other ladies do as well. It's hard with that balance. Now, Jenny, would you like to share your story?
Great. Thanks, Kirsten, for having me here today. The peak of my workplace stress started, like you, Marianne. I started to notice the biggest impacts of that I want to say like January 2021. So we were still in the thick of COVID during that time. We were all working from home without childcare. And the pressures of working are extremely real. There's a lot of others that have experienced this intense lack of work-life balance and pressure. Specifically, my role was related to launching day and holiday peak events. And like you, many of you have worldwide teams. It was really challenging to manage all the changing time zones, the different counterparts in different regions. And I had just received a promotion. I was having a lot of anxiety at work, and I spoke to my manager about my workload, trying to meet these new expectations after the promotion. And I really confided in hoping that I would have support as far as understanding around some of the mental health challenges that I was having. I believe that information that I shared with my manager was used against me. I felt like I was discriminated against, and I was given an option to find another role because there wasn't enough scope for this new promotion that I had just gotten. So needless to say, between the constant pressure of driving results and the pandemic, as well as this decision that was made about my role, I had to take a leave of absence. I took time to work on myself. And it was the best thing that I could have done. It took me about the entire length of the leave of absence to detox almost from this constant, like scrolling at my phone, checking my email, wondering when the next fire was going to come up that I had to put out. And I finally diagnosed with complex PTSD that was a factor of my workplace. And I pursued some holistic healing modalities to address some of the issues during that time frame that I was in the leave of absence. I started to re-engage back with my practice of yoga and meditation. I started to use a lot of outdoor techniques, so grounding in nature. And I started to notice that my health started to take a turn for the better. And I vowed to never put myself in a position again where I was not valued, where I put my health ahead, where I didn't put my health ahead of the work. And I'm so grateful today that I've been able to carve a new path in entrepreneurship and encourage other women that are in similar positions as us to pursue their dreams, not put up with things that they know deep down are not right for them.
I love that. I love that you were able to really know what your value is.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the core with setting boundaries in all areas of life, right? With people at work, with people that you are friends with, family members. And that's wonderful. And I know that sometimes we go through these challenges, and when we're in the middle of it, we think, why me? Why do I have to go through this? This doesn't feel fair. And your feelings are real, right? When you're in the middle of that. But many times on the other side, there's something more beautiful. There's something better for you. And it helps you actually realize who you really are. Because sometimes, especially as we're young women and we think, okay, this is what I want to be when I grow up. A lot of times that changes. And as we get in the middle of the workplace, we realize, am I working to live or am I living to work?
Mm.
And I'm just going to leave that one phrase. Am I living to work or working to live? I'm going to start with you, Marianne. What does that mean to you?
That I thought a lot about that during my career, and I'm still thinking about it now as I run my own business. And I think what happened during COVID is a lot of people were living to work, but then they realized during COVID that now with the flexible work arrangement, now with the remote options, they have more time to pursue their hobbies, to figure out things that fulfill them other than work. Right. So I think on that question, it's very personal. Like for me, a lot of my joy comes, of course, from my kids, but also from work. And I feel that if you have a mission that drives you, like my mission is to empower and elevate like women in tech. And everything that I'm doing at work is helping fulfill that mission. So in a way, I do feel like I am living for my work, but it's because I am very mission driven. So I guess it just depends on people, right? If your work allows you to fulfill your mission or allows you to be fulfilled, there's nothing wrong with living for work, right? But on the other hand, if you feel that your work is not providing you the happiness that you need, then it's okay to focus on something else and have a balance between work, hobbies, friends, and family. So I guess my answer to that question is it's just personal. It's up to you to decide to choose what fulfills you and to pursue that.
I love that. Anu, what do you think? How did you mitigate your situation? You were in the midst of it, right? Did you see the light or did it take time to figure out what those steps would be for you? And then how did you move through them?
As I mentioned, like returning from maternity leave, it posed significant challenges for me. And that was something was like for me, I have decided like I have to do something about it. This is maybe not the place for me anymore. I took some break after that. I went back to my country and to the villages to connect with my roots and also find what am I doing and what I want to do next. Because there are several indicators and life circumstances which led me to realize the necessity of changing my career path and prioritizing my well-being during that time. There was incident after I returned from maternity, like despite receiving recognition for my work before my leave, I encountered difficulties like upon my return. Like my responsibilities were handed over to a colleague who took credit for my efforts and undermined my contributions. Those combined with the stress of caring for a newborn and a toddler added to my postpartum anxiety. Despite previously mentoring women in tech, I found myself unable to advocate for myself at that time. As a result of that decline in the motivation and passion for my work as well. Well, I took advantage of the great bonding leave my company offered. I prioritized self-care, family, and ultimately decided to channel my experiences into creating a more supportive professional environment, maybe for myself and for others. That is the time when I took a break. I'm going to come back from the bonding leave and I'm going to start what I really wanted to do in my life and not take any crap.
There's the strength that pops out. And we're balancing. We all have masculine and feminine energy in us, right? Some people tend to be more nurturing, some people not as nurturing. It depends on your actual makeup. But especially with women, people in general expect that to be more on the nurturing side and the softer. That's the expectation. But we can be very strong in a very gentle way. It's setting those boundaries a subtle way a lot of the times. Jenny, you did mention where you pivoted towards the spirituality and yoga to contend with some of the challenges. When I went through that phrase, living for working or working for living, how did that feel to you? Do you have a slightly different perspective, or would it be similar to what Marianne was saying?
I absolutely can resonate with Marianne's response. I had to do a lot of deep healing during the time that I was looking back at where I had gone wrong and where I wanted to move forward. And as I began to understand that I had unique skill sets that other businesses would benefit from, my learning how to be super efficient, my 20-year marketing background, and I decided that to put that into practice by supporting small businesses, specifically women owned businesses in the wellness space. And because I feel so rewarded to mentor women in this space, the space that has healed me, right? Like I'm such a huge advocate now about holistic wellness that I really tend to lean into working only with these types of businesses. That to me, it feels like I have a purpose. And my purpose is to elevate other women that don't have the skill set in marketing and technology, don't have that back end knowledge on how to build websites, how to learn about optimizing their SEO. And so bridging both worlds of wellness and marketing together, that to me, I feel just grateful to be in this position at the moment. And I definitely feel a little bit of both. I find the time that I need to take care of myself and my family because of the flexibility of being an entrepreneur. I can also choose what businesses I work with and which ones I don't. And the entrepreneurial journey has been challenging, but it's very rewarding, especially when I see the connection that these women made together as part of facilitating the community.
Love hearing how you take a challenge and you transmute it into light energy. That's what you all have done. The audience that are listening to this, they don't know yet how you've done that. I have been able to kind of get in some insight to your stories, and you all have very remarkable stories of how you've done that. That's like a superhuman power, right? Is we can choose to be the victim, or we can take that and we can pivot and make it into something else. I'd like to hear from you, Marianne, with those challenges as you're seeing how things were in that place that you're in, taking a step back, and as you move forward into creating your own business, whether it's the actual business with the consulting firm or the Women's Bay Network and the other entrepreneurs that you brought together and helping them find resources that they need. In what way did you see those challenges and find that as an opportunity to benefit others?
Yeah, I returned to work after 4 months postpartum. It wasn't easy. It was very stressful. Again, managing two kids, one toddler, one newborn. I think 6 months after that, my son, he needed more medical care. So at that point, I was very stressed out by managing just work and family. So I decided to step back. But that really opened up an opportunity for me. I've always been passionate about promoting women in tech. At MindBody, we built a team of 55% women engineers, which is one of the highest ratio for any company in tech. And I wanted to make a bigger impact to the community. So that's when I decided to start my own company. And I started Upward Recruiting. And our mission was to help companies hire more women engineers, especially startups. And our philosophy was that if you put a woman at a fast growing startup, her career is going to grow and we're going to get more women in leadership positions. Although I did leave my job to focus more on my kid, my company started growing really fast. And I started working even more than I was working at, but because I was really living my mission of helping or bridging the gender gap in tech, it didn't feel as much of work as it previously did. So I was really happy doing that. I started going to different networking events to meet mentors that could help me grow my business or that could help me face the challenges that I was going through. And then I would go to founder event and I wouldn't meet a lot of women founders. So I couldn't get mentors to help me with my business. So then instead of playing the victim, I decided to do something about it. And I started my own women founder community. And that's actually how I met Kristen. So now we have over 200 startups, all founded by women. We're helping them grow their business. We're helping them meet with investors and helping them connect with other women who can also help them. So really, I started off being very stressed out because of my new situation with the newborn, but then beautiful things came out of it, where now I have placed over 25 women at different startups. We have 200 startups founded by women that we're helping out. So there is light at the end of the tunnel for me.
It'd be interesting to hear folks that haven't experienced these challenges in the workplace. Not everybody has, whether you're male or female. Now, on you, what do you feel on that? With your experiences, how do you feel you were able to take those challenges and turn them into something that could feed your passion and help others in a way that you saw wasn't happening for you before that?
Yeah, Kristen. Yeah, as you mentioned, and like others, like there are several challenges we faced. Like I had an experience of 15 years in the tech industry and also with University of Berkeley. So I think that my journey in the tech industry, and which was coupled with my role at UC Berkeley's Harvard School of Business, that experience influenced my decision to start my own AI accelerator farm. Though through my involvement in the Smart Village program, which was a collaboration between UC Berkeley and the government of India, actually, we created a smart village called Mori in India. And as a part of that, I helped many startups, mostly in the tech industry and also agri-tech industries. So when I worked with them, I saw a lot of challenges what they are facing and combined with the challenges which I faced in my corporate. I worked with them in the ground level, be it in the technology front or like in evangelism for a front or collaboration with the government and all. Additionally, while leading AI solutions in my previous company, I was part of this Startup Disruptor program, which also exposed me to the startup ecosystem and allowed me to advise and support emerging companies. And I saw what are the challenges, what they are facing, and obviously I can connect with the challenges which I faced in my early careers, and I wanted to mitigate them. So during my bonding leave, I was approached by numerous startups seeking guidance and expertise, further solidifying my passion for supporting entrepreneurial ventures. Those experiences, combined with my track record of launching tech products in AI and data domains, equipped me with the skills and insights needed to establish my own AI accelerator farm. Today, my focus is to launch innovative ideas in AI and deep tech to market, leveraging my expertise and connections to drive success for our clients and partners. And in this journey, I want to involve more and more small businesses and women-led startups.
That is amazing. So again, taking those challenges, but not only the challenges that you personally faced, but your observation with what other people were facing and trying to help yourself and others in that same process. Now, can you clarify something when you're talking about the Smart Village? That's an incubator, or that's a consulting or a mentorship opportunity?
So AI Smart Village, or like the Smart Village program with UC Berkeley, it was like I was advisor for them. So it was a partnership with the government of India and UC Berkeley, where they help multiple startups. Like you can think of it as an incubator accelerator firm where they help them to grow their startups in developing countries. So we work mostly in South Asian countries like India, Sri Lanka primarily. And there we created a model village called Mori, which is very interesting. You can check it out in the web. Like where all the startups or big companies from different sectors, be it healthcare or education or e-commerce, they were setting or helping to form that model village, and which can be expanded all over the country and the state.
Wow. That's great. So it's a little bit of outreach, but you're taking something that was already established and you're taking those ideas and helping other countries do the same. So it's an extension of already
That's
established.
immense amount of experience in what are the challenges they faced and how their problems can be solved. And that is the time when I also started thinking, how can I solve their challenges being an entrepreneur away from my corporate job and completely focusing on that.
What's the problem and how do I solve it? It's a daily life of an entrepreneur, right? And then when you feel like you solve one problem, something else pops up and you're going, okay, pivot. I have to deal with this. And then home life. Jenny, you pivoted and went into health and wellness through, I would imagine, your experience with learning and healing through those modalities from other people, the services that they provided to you. And it attracted you to that area. But also you have these marketing skills. You have these mad marketing skills that you can't unknow. We know that most folks in the healthcare industry and or holistic providers are not necessarily keen to marketing skills. That's not usually where they're wanting to focus their energy. You have a glimpse of both sides of those things. As you were healing yourself, how did you transition into that with tapping into the marketing to help those holistic healers?
The conversation kept coming up as I was receiving either hypnotherapy or Reiki. They would say, wow, we wish that we knew somebody that can help us with marketing. And I just started to connect the dots. I felt like very much divinely guided to pursue supporting these women. At first, it started off just as one-off conversations. And then I would mention, have you met another provider in the area that's doing the similar work? And they said, no, we would love to connect with other like-minded women. And so that's when I started to have these in-person networking events where I would do trainings on how to leverage LinkedIn for sales, how to use Canva for design, how to build a website in Squarespace, how to do their own SEO audit. And through these trainings that I was putting together, the women really started to connect and resonate from each other. And that's when I decided to create a membership-based tier. So depending on the level of support that these businesses needed, then I would be able to better support them. I've bridged the gap where I understand the challenges that wellness practitioners face. I've also started to increase my target audience scope to naturopath clinics and yoga studios and other wellness practitioners. I've just met a variety of different businesses and different phases of their growth. And no matter where the business is at, I've developed a team of virtual assistants. So if they need execution support, I pair them with a person that I've trained. I have a whole intake system set up for them. So all of the back-end operations is sorted out so that these small business owners can focus on what they do best, and that's healing others. It's been such a beautiful journey. I wouldn't change anything. I love to see how the business is expanding and growing. And although challenging at times, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It's been the most rewarding thing I've done yet.
Wow. And you really learned a lot about yourself through that process, right? Just a quick follow-up question. Do you feel that process could be somewhat therapeutic in itself?
I think that working with these different practitioners has led me to phases of healing, deep healing work that I was not familiar with at first, related to plant medicine, related to shadow work, related to astrology. And so my spiritual awakening and healing journey has continued to evolve as a result of being exposed to these different modalities. And through this journey, I feel like the more I pour into myself, the more I can pour into businesses that need my support.
That's amazing. We do know that there's a huge concern with mental health. And there are some scientific studies that actually show that the majority root cause of illness is mental health challenges, would usually due to stress, which could be daily stress, all the way to PTSD. That affects our physiology directly. And if you're in a place where you feel like you can't get the support that you need, that can exacerbate that situation. Home life, work life, especially if both are stressful, there's nowhere to go. for that relief. And one of the other side effects of stress is insomnia, right?
Mhm.
And if we don't have sleep to feed our brain, because your brain needs time to shut off and chill out. And during your sleep, you go through certain cycles and processes that actually help you heal. And Marian, you had mentioned that there were some challenges with sleep for you. Do you want to expand on your experiences with that and walk us through that journey?
Yes, absolutely. So that's something I'm very familiar with because I've been struggling with insomnia for a couple of years now. It started happening after the first time I gave birth, my first child. And a month into it, after I gave birth, my body could not sleep anymore. Whatever I tried, I just couldn't get any sleep. And that was very bad for my mental health because I could not focus properly. I was even seeing blurry. I would go to different doctors and all the recommendation wouldn't work. And that cycle lasted a few months until I finally figured out a way to deal with it through yoga, through exercise, and then through something called CBTI, which is cognitive behavior therapy for insomnia. And that really helped me start sleeping better. And I finally started sleeping better and also having less anxiety around sleep because when you don't sleep, creates a loop because you start being anxious about not sleeping. And because you're anxious, then you can't sleep. So it's like a never ending loop that it's very hard to get out of. So I finally got out of that. And then it started happening again after I gave birth to my second child. And my insomnia was as bad as the first time. So again, I went back to the routine I had developed, which was like yoga, exercise, CBTI to get out of it. But even now, while going through different challenges, I do find myself going through insomnia from time to time if I'm not taking care of like my mental health and my body. So it's something to always be aware of, but definitely I would recommend CBTI because it changed how I would approach dealing with not sleeping, and it helped me get better at dealing with anxiety that prevented me from getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah, it's what came first, the chicken or the egg. And I remember many times, usually I don't have an issue with sleep, but this last year, I'll wake up at 3 and I'm like, I have to get up in 3 hours. If I have that extra 3 hours, it's going to make all the difference. And then as the time's clicking away, just like you said, then the mind starts to overwork. I need to turn this off. What do I do now? What I have done in it, just because sometimes if I read late at night, I just start to naturally fall asleep. And one of two things happen. I learned something that I didn't know before, or I fall asleep and I get the sleep. I figured it's a win either way, right? I'm either tired and more knowledgeable, or I didn't learn it and I get to get some sleep. So Anya, you touched on a little bit about Ayurveda. With your experiences with, you also mentioned the postpartum aspects. Is there anything that you want to expand on the postpartum? Did you have issues with sleep also? Any specific benefits that you, when you were going through that healing process, that you want to share with others that worked for you?
Yeah, Kristen. As mentioned by Marian, I had insomnia too. I had two back-to-back babies. Like my second baby was born when my first kid was only 16 months old. It was extremely challenging. And I was I was sleep deprived since my first baby. I did not give my body time to heal. And my second pregnancy really hit me very bad. So and on top of that, I was very workaholic at the time. I wanted to do great in my career. I only took 2.5 months of my maternity leave and I joined office only to get a lot of changes and, not support, which I should have expected. During that time, my baby used to get up almost around 8 to 9 times during night. And I had 9 o'clock meetings. And similar what Marian has explained, have been working with multiple time zones and like back to back meetings till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, taking care of the child in between. And those and not having like a proper sleep, it not only affected, I think all of those things piled up, it not only affected on my postpartum depression, anxiety, and also I developed hypertension at a very young age. And combine everything, I think like, then I was like, that is the time like I started thinking, what am I doing? Why I am doing? Like, how do I change myself? How do I overcome this situation? At least some of the challenges in corporate and my work, I thought of, and then I decided that I'm going to take my rest of my bonding leave and not going to think about work and think about what am I going to do next. So I took that bonding leave, which was around 4.5 months, 4 months. And I tried to, as I mentioned, I traveled with my family to reconnect with my roots. I implemented a lot of lifestyle changes, and embracing holistic practices proved transformative for me. I also met a lot of Ayurvedic practitioners back in my country and villages. And the knowledge I gained from them and like simple lifestyle changes, simple way to handle things, calming myself down. And like those really helped me immensely. And I, with the help of not only alternative medicines, yoga, meditation, I really gained a lot of weight as well. I was able to cut down on my weight and I realized that I was taking medicines for hypertension, and I have like my hypertension, actually my blood pressure came down as well. So I am no longer taking medicines for hypertension. I am immensely happy at my work. What am I doing right now in my entrepreneurial journey? I would say that from postpartum depression, I am right now in a happiness zone. And I actually don't, I really enjoy and love what I'm doing right now. And I want to double down on that.
That's awesome. And I think with Ayurveda, they look at the root cause, right? What's causing the issue here? Let's try to remove it. And I do know that what seems to help people with that is your daily routine. And speaking of daily routine, Marianne, do you feel that daily routine is important to maintain the mental health and physical health, especially being extremely busy? You have to be organized. First part of the question is, do you feel that's important? Second part is how. And then third is, how do you make sure that you have things balanced to keep a healthy workplace and home balance?
Yeah, I definitely think that routine is important, right? Because as I mentioned, with insomnia, one of the CBTI, what it teaches you is to develop a night routine, right? Where every night you either read a book or find ways to manage your stress on a daily basis. In theory, yes, routine should improve mental health, but the reality of being a mom and managing your own business is rarely will the things that I plan to do on the next day happen. Like, for example, last night, my son got sick and he kept me up all night and I rarely got any sleep, right? And my routine was to go to go to the gym in the morning. Was I able to do that? No, because I couldn't send him to childcare. So especially when you're a mom and having your own business, it's very hard to maintain that routine. But I still try to exercise at least 3 times a week. I try to do yoga at least a few times a month, but it's still a work in progress. And I'm trying to figure out better ways to establish and maintain a routine.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Like for me, I'll have a set schedule, and the same thing is I like to work out in the morning, then I meditate, then I eat my breakfast and all of that. And something comes in and I have this like small window, and then I have meetings. So do I meditate in between the meetings? Which is very beneficial to also balancing the physiology. So Jenny, since you have this experience with the holistic area, right? You're living it, you've experienced it on the other side, and you work with folks with those modalities. Do you have any advice that you would like to give if other people are considering pivoting from the corporate world where they're in an office, for example, having to do more analytical work, and they're curious about becoming a yoga teacher or getting into hypnosis or meditation or something like that and pivoting into a holistic area. Do you have any advice that you can share on that?
I think in general, some of the learnings that I've gathered from entrepreneurship is consider having multiple income streams before completely leaving your current profession. It does take time to build a business. And because I've developed a series of different avenues, just from the membership based community to the work that I do in the community with workshops, the yoga teaching, and of course, like the actual marketing consulting work. I'm also developing online courses. And so all these different revenue streams give me the flexibility to be able to not only lean into the holistic wellness revenue opportunities. So I would definitely encourage the person to have different options before they completely leave their corporate environment. The second thing is always have compassion for yourself. The pivot is necessary in entrepreneurship. And even if you don't know exactly what that passion is going to turn into, follow your instincts, follow your intuition, and the universe will unfold things that were sometimes even much better planned than you could have ever planned. And the last thing that I'll say is just be consistent. No matter how many times you have to start and stop or pivot, just keep at it and don't give up, because there's been moments where I've absolutely felt that it was challenging to do it, go at it alone. It was too much, not having the right resources and support. And so being super efficient with your time and just having compassion for yourself and knowing that there's always another day. The problem and the challenge doesn't have to be as big as you think it is.
You said something, trust your intuition. So a lot of us, when we're making decisions, we have to use the analytical part of our mind. We go through this flow. This is what we do to get through it from A to Z. A lot of the times we may forget that our gut is actually what always leads us down the right path. It's our mind that takes the left every now and then. But you have to have both, right? It's integrating both your intuition, your gut instinct of what you should do, but also what's making sense to people. So would you say that's something that you find going back and forth, or is there a strategy that you have to integrate both of those?
I definitely feel that intuitive hits come when they need to come. Sometimes when I'm sitting in stillness, I really feel that idea of what to do next come forth. And then it's putting that into practice, right? So combining the intuitive aspect, but then leveraging my analytical side, my operational side to say, okay, this idea is just an idea. How do I put that into practice? How do I go one step at a time in the right order to achieve it? And that's where I see that bridge come together, where there is this beautiful mix and flow of life when you have that background already in corporate and you transition into entrepreneurship and to more less analytical type of work. You bridge those worlds together and it's a beautiful match.
So this is collaboration, right? And we have relationships with people. You're working around each other, which is very different from connection. Connection is there's a commonality that you have that you're working towards, right? And that is something that Marian has developed, which is something that's very profound with providing support to other women. And it's already stressful enough. As Marian was saying, there's not a lot of women mentors out there that are founders. There's not many women CEO led or owned companies that have gone public with IPO. And we have ideas of maybe why that has happened, but I don't know. We can be the victim or we can do something about it, right? And shift that energy. But going to that networking, that's how we build each other up. And so when you have the networking, that can create a lot of strength and foundation on you. You're part of Marian's networking also. You see some of the postings on there. If someone came to you and said, I'm a new female entrepreneur, or actually any gender for that matter, and said, I'm really struggling. I've pivoted out of this old job. I had these challenges, which may be similar, that caused health issues. Do you have an idea of what kind of advice would you give them on the networking aspect and how that can support them to maintain balance and grow their business?
Absolutely. I think, see, it is very essential to recognize that every situation is unique and there is no one size fits all solution. So you have to understand what you have pivoted from your current corporate or your work, what exactly made you to do that. So there must be some signals or some life events which has happened and you have come forward that, okay, something in your mind. I would say take a break that can be immensely beneficial. Whether it's a short hiatus or attending events and meeting new people, stepping away from the problem can often lead to fresh perspectives and solutions. Just like troubleshooting a bug with tech people, sometimes the best ideas come when you take a step back and approach the issue from a different angle. As like Marian is doing, and like networking, connecting with people, going to events, those really help. And as an entrepreneur, those are like you get to learn so much from each other. And maybe the idea which you have is completely changing and you can form them slowly. And I feel understanding yourself and meeting people and doing networking and going to those entrepreneur events can really help you to come and form your idea and what next steps you really want to take in your career.
I agree. So, Marian, what advice, let's say, and you probably deal with this a lot. I know I see some of the questions that you get, and you have usually answers almost immediately to help. You have such a big heart, and I'm honored to know you. And actually, all of you, you all have big hearts. And I think that we need more of that in this world. We really do. The bringing people together of different perspectives and honoring that. So, Marian, if someone came to you and said, I need advice as to, I experienced maybe similar challenge that you did as a mom in the workplace and not getting enough sleep, what kind of advice would you give that person? It might be different than yourself, or would it be the same?
I think the biggest advice is just have sympathy for yourself. Let go of this idea that you have to be perfect at everything you're encountering. And because we have this idea that, okay, we have to be perfect at work, we have to be perfect mothers, it creates a lot of guilt in us. And as a result, like we then don't allow ourselves to stop, take a break, and focus on feeling better. So my advice to women who are feeling guilty or struggling to manage everything is just have sympathy with yourself, right? You are so strong, for one, dealing with motherhood, also trying to grow your career or even start your own business. Just be proud of what you're accomplishing. And it's okay sometimes to feel overwhelmed with everything. It's okay to feel anxious. We all feel it. Even if you see someone very successful and you're like, they have it all, no one really has it all. So just take a break, look at everything you accomplished, and then focus on just feeling better, on growing your business one step at a time. And then once you feel that you have a little bit more energy to give, the most important is to give back to other women, right? Like us women, we don't have a lot of mentors, right? We only get 2% of the funding, of the total VC funding that happen. We need to support each other, to come together and elevate each other. Because if we don't, then no one will. Once you are in a better place, go ahead and try to elevate women around you. And then you'll see that women, especially what I found, is that they want to help other women.
Yeah.
And that'll just give you you'll feel better about yourself. And then you'll be helping us all with the common mission of being on equal par and having equal opportunities.
And especially in the business world. And actually, there's a healthy balance to that, to be competitive. There's a nature within us to be driven to be better, to compete against another person. It's what we do with that is key. If we stand in our integrity within ourselves when we're competing with someone else, and we're not trying to bulldoze them or undermine them, and we're honest, that is going to reflect back on us as people. So we're going to see and experience very different things out there in the world. That's the reality. Process, the growth, and the evolution. It's the transformation. And you all have done that. I'm going to go back to you, Jenny. Looking at transformation, at what point for yourself in your journey did you start to see that?
I feel like I turned a corner when I started to learn from my triggers instead of let them take over. I think we talked a little bit about that victimhood mentality early on. And I remember I was so deep in my mental struggle that I felt like everything was being done to me. I couldn't really take ownership for the role that I'd had in not taking time for self-care, not setting healthy boundaries. And I knew that I had transformed into a better version when I would ask myself, what is the universe trying to teach me here? I would release these attachments to scarcity and competition and instead lean in with compassion and understanding, and things just started to click.
And what about you, Marian? Where did you see that for you?
I think for me was realizing that talking about competitive advantage, one of the biggest competitive advantage that you can have is your network, right?
Mhm.
And once you build a strong network, once you give back to the community, everything falls into place, right? Because suddenly you're not only your biggest advocate, everybody around you who you've been helping is also your biggest advocate, right? And that
Yeah.
creates an effect that is big, right? Just since I started my women founder community, I met so many amazing women who also started doing events for other women, right? And I could see the network effect propagate through Silicon Valley. And now we're seeing more and more women speakers. We're seeing more women pitching in competitions, all because we brought this community together. So I guess if you are doubting what your competitive advantage is, one of the best thing you could do is build like a strong network and giving back to that network. And then once you have that, there's nothing really that could stop you.
Wow. Motivational speaker. I love it. Seriously, add that onto your list.
Okay, good.
All right. You're next, Anu. What do you think? What was the point where you saw that transformation occur for you?
Christine, as I mentioned, while I was navigating my career change, I embarked on a journey of self-discovery and healing. I realized that corporate is not something which I want to pursue and want to take the entrepreneurial route. I was trying to think about the problems which I faced throughout my career, like 15 years of career. I wanted to solve some problems. That is when I felt very strongly about all the startups which I have worked with and all the ideas and all the people which I worked with, the problems they have faced. And I felt that I have that ability and knowledge to solve that. And that is what I wanted to do. And that gives me a lot of immense amount of pleasure in helping others, in like helping companies to build their ideas to market. So that is when the transformation happened. It was very organic for me. And the self-healing and self-discovery, that is the phase which really helped me to identify what I wanted to do.
That's the who am I? That we are going to have another segment on that, the who am I, which is going to be quite interesting. Talking about perspective. Like we all come to the table with different perspectives, even just here and in the world. And noticeably, we've seen some people not allow or want to hear another perspective. And it could be threatening, it could be scary. And really, at the end of the day, we lose out personally and as a collective when we don't keep our minds open and our hearts open. I'm going to give you one quick analogy that I share with people. Is let's say there's a statue, okay? And the statue is posing all kind of weird, and there's 4 of us, and we're each assigned a side, right? Someone's assigned to the front of the statue where they're facing the face of the person. The other one's on the back side, and one is on each side. You're not allowed to move. You're not allowed to see any of the other sides of that statue, just that one side. So your perspective, your truth, is what you're seeing, right? You don't know the other sides of that statue. And then you have to report back to other people of what you saw. And you take in that information based on all of the different senses. That's your knowing in that. And then the other person says, no, that's not what I saw, this. But you didn't see any of that. And so we are limited on the actual full experience of what the truth is if we're not allowing each other to share all of those perspectives. I don't want to see that front side. I only want to see the side or the back. And so all of us sharing as a collective, all of our perspectives, it actually creates that wholeness. And that's exactly what Marian's doing with her networking. There's a group of women that are coming together, all different ages, different experiences, different walks of life, came from different cultural backgrounds. And my experience of what I'm seeing is everyone embraces that. And that's connection. When you have that connection versus the unknown of not seeing those other sides of that statue, it's now you're blinded to what's available to you. Now, you don't have to agree with that, what that other side of that statue is about, but at least to take that in as an observation, and down the road, who knows, maybe you change your mind, right? And that's just all from the space of curiosity, that when you're curious, you're in your childlike energy again. Do you remember when you were a child? More innocence. We all have the ability to go back to that space. And it sounds like you all have done that through your passion, through finding yourself again, reconnecting with that person, and then creating that transformative way of identifying those challenges that you had with your workplace, with your health, turn that into something that was very beautiful, that benefited not only your own soul, but everybody else that you come into contact with. That's power. I want to take this time to allow each of you, if you would like, to ask each other a question. It sounds like many of you are in a similar phase in your life. Is there anything that you would like to ask each other? Jenny, do you have any questions?
I have a comment. I think I love what all of you are doing, and I'm feeling called to just offer my support for your women founders group. Let me know if there's any mentorship, any marketing, anything that I can support your group with. I'd love to be a part of it.
Thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate it. And, that's the power of community, is that we're coming together, we're offering support, and together we're really stronger. So thank you for offering your support. We should definitely connect after this. I think I have a question for Anu. So Anu, I know that you're managing 2 young kids and now you have your own business, and I can see you doing lots of ventures. How do you stay sane while managing all of this right now? What is your way to cope with the stress that comes by managing multiple different aspects in your life?
I would say that I was very lucky to have a great support system from my family and friends. I rely on them a lot. I also feel while having a strong support system is invaluable when facing life's challenges. However, it's very essential to cultivate in an inner strength and resilience that allow us to overcome those obstacles on our own. Even though I have 2 toddlers and a newly formed business right now, I keep saying I try to manage the time. Like, as you mentioned, your child goes to the daycare, same as mine. I try to get that work done. I'm more focused right now than I used to be before because I don't have any other way around. And the connections which I make, the little time I get to make the connections, I make deep connections and we follow up and most of my leads right now is through my connections. And there are multiple events which keeps on happening in San Francisco. I don't go there because I don't have that time. But the little things, if I go to one connection, one event, I try to double down on the opportunity I get. So that's how I try to manage things.
Awesome. You make the most out of it when
Yeah, exactly. And I would like to thanks to you. That's a great community you have built. And met Kristen through that community and many other people. And that's very strong. I have seen the people there are helping each other, very helpful. And I would love to connect with you and we'll see how we can go from there and collaborate if needed.
absolutely would love to.
I have a question for Jenny though. I was wondering, Jenny, you have mentioned about the work culture. You have told your stories and I would like to understand, do you think you're more happy now than you used to be before? Do you think your entrepreneurial journey has given you more happiness prior to your journey before?
I want to say that the first few years pre-COVID were an amazing opportunity. I learned a lot. I worked with the people in their top of their profession. I essentially call it my second MBA. The experience that I got there, I could have not, I don't think, received somewhere else. I had an amazing opportunity to move to Seattle, and I enjoy nature so much here and travel. I think that things started to change as COVID hit. I think there was a lot more pressure for people at home. And like you said, Marianne, people realized that there is life outside of work. And especially when I identified, like my whole identity was involved in my profession, that I definitely feel I'm happier now because I can make my own schedule, because I don't have a glass ceiling anymore. I'm not being ignored when I'm expressing my challenges. I have the control of where to go from here. I do miss the 6-figure salary, but I feel like my business is going to surpass that. And so the sky's the limit now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I think it sounds like all of us have multiple things going on. Marian, back at you, and you too, Jenny. How do you guys not lose your sanity?
Exactly. Like I was about to ask Marian, like you had 4 exits and like you have 2 young kids as well and this huge group to manage. How do you do all those?
I'm very lucky that I have a support system of amazing women around me. I have very close friends, and anytime I'm stressed or anytime something is bothering me, I can go to them and we can talk about it and try to solve it together. But I think what helps me is knowing that I have these amazing women to support me and to catch me. And that means the world for me because then I can take risks. I can do more, knowing that at the end of the day, I have people who have my back. So for me, that's my way to cope with everything. And I feel really blessed to have them in my life.
Oh, you're well loved in the community. What about you, Jenny?
I feel that there is the evolution of me still balancing things that's still happening. I am extremely grateful for the people in my life, the supportive partner, the 50 women that I mentor, in addition to 25 local business partners. But it's a work in progress. There's some days that get challenging. I lean into the interns. I have an internship program. So there's 5 young women that I mentor, and they learn about the day-to-day. They help execute. I'm looking to bring on some paid contractors soon. So yeah, the team is growing.
That's awesome. I want to reflect back on something you just said right before that, too. I know there were challenges when you worked. It sounds like the universe brought you in there to give you those skills. You said a mini MBA. That's huge, especially you have tangible aspects to take from and learn from. And work culture, although it was challenging, those lessons you can take with you. And in your own businesses, you know how you want to change the culture, right? So it's through those experiences with all of you that when you build your own business, I think some of you actually already intimated this. This is how you're going to make things different, whether it's your direct employees or the people that you come in contact with, the services that you supply for any of your clients, how things in leadership all across the world are changing. Are you seeing that in the other fields?
I think I can speak to the change that I saw towards the end. They did start to put into place some corporate wellness programs. I think, like I know, like you said, a lot of companies offer benefits, not always making it viable for people to actually take advantage of them. So one of the new programs that I'm launching is facilitating corporate wellness program development for large corporations, because I think they're getting the message loud and clear. People are not going back to full-time in-person work, commuting 12 hours a day. The shift has happened and people are awakening to having a really well-rounded life. So I think it sets the stage for a whole new system to come into place.
On my end, I am seeing similar things about diversity. Right now, a lot of people are realizing that diverse team are actually much more successful than non-diverse team. There's a lot of studies that shows that women, especially women of color, have better returns when they have their startups. And I really believe this is the future, is to be a boardroom where 50% of the people are women, to see exits where 50% are also women. We need more diversity in this world so we can all be successful. And I really believe that it is happening. I think one of the things that I'd like you to take from it, and that's one of my mission this year, is that anytime you go to an event or you're invited to a pitch competition or you go to a founder event and you don't see women in the speaker roles, you don't see women as judges, or you don't see women pitching, call it out. By calling it out and encouraging more women to be in the spotlight, we can really start changing things together. So that's my one ask for you this year.
What about you, Anu?
I realized that empowerment and wellness, so empowering team members by providing autonomy, as Jenny mentioned, over their work and decision-making processes, helping them to prioritize work-life balances, offering flexible arrangements and wellness initiatives. I believe that like work, you don't have to have your work as a separate entity. It can be, if you enjoy your work, it can be part of your life as well. Like when we are like doing something, we're always thinking, how can we do it better? How can we do that presentation better? How can we write that code better? What amazing ideas come when you are even like interacting with your toddlers or interacting with the other persons. You need to look into those. Those are like, you need to implement, take that energy and take that solution and implement those. And I feel that you don't have to make it like separate. You can give autonomy to people. People can be more flexible, and in that way, people can work better.
I love that. Well said. So I have a quick question for all of you. So this week, this just came out of nowhere for me with this topic. How do you think we could take this conversation and expand it outward with, number one, the impact on health for people in general, but specifically women and the extra challenges they face? Could it be like a networking discussion that can be within another entity? Could it be just having podcasts? How do we bring awareness to this and how do we help other people?
I think it's what I mentioned previously. It's just having more women sharing their stories, whether on stage or on social media or via podcast. The more we have women take center stage in those kind of events or in the boardroom or in the podcast, the more voices we're going to hear, and we're going to start learning about perspective, either from about motherhood, about managing work-life balance as a mom. So I think just continuing to have those conversations and elevating women to have their voice heard will start changing kind of the environment around us.
I would say tell your story. Don't be afraid that you're out there, that the companies are going to clap back in a way that I think there's a corporate workplace mental health dilemma that needs to be spoken about.
I feel that we should share stories not only from executives or leaders, like women leaders. We also want to hear stories from young women who join corporate, who join the industry. What are they have unique challenges as well, young mothers. But we need to bring in all women from different phases of their life and want to hear their stories. And we need to make it more frequent so that people can learn from their stories. They can act on their stories and so that they don't make that mistakes.
So if we all network with women, though, I think that's really imperative. I think that it gets the conversation going, you're supported. But if we're not getting the message to men in the workplace too, is there a way with the networking to do that? Because I think a lot of it isn't necessarily intentional, right? And actually, maybe even women in the workplace could have created these cultures that are not supportive of women. I think this is fairly complex. Would we have a networking of all genders, bringing them together, and then people telling their story? You don't have to have an answer now, but just food for thought that we want everyone to the conversation from different perspectives. Some people unknowingly do things and don't even realize.
I
Just
think
throwing that out
executive trainings are a big gap where there would be both genders in the room, right? Having women
there.
come to speak to these executive training opportunities so that
Yeah.
it's a top-down decision.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel what Jenny mentioned, I think at one point, that many of the things which we have faced, because for me, I was a mother as well during the COVID times. It's like COVID and like those change of work culture had put a lot of pressure, not only for women, but also for men. And like the stress, the work stress is also very has immensely increased during that time. And as you have mentioned, we should give benefit of doubt and we should have more training and we need to work towards a better future instead of holding on to the past.
Well said. Love that. So is there anything else anyone wants to add before we check out here?
Thank you for facilitating this conversation, Kristen.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so grateful to have all of you. So I'd like to take the time to reflect back on our discussion today with my three guests. Some have embraced mindfulness practices like meditation and yoga, finding solace in moments of stillness amid the chaos. Others have sought support through a network of friends or business affiliates, also maybe even one-on-one therapeutic support that would help them navigate the complexities in their emotions. And many have redefined their relationship with work, setting boundaries and learning to say no when necessary. Moreover, organizations are beginning to recognize the significance of supporting women's health in the workplace. Flexible work arrangements, wellness programs, initiatives to promote a work-life balance are becoming more prevalent, creating environments where women can thrive without sacrificing their health. Through determination, self-awareness, and commitment to self-care, these women not only have overcome burnout, but have also paved the way for a healthier, more sustainable approach to success in the corporate world. As we conclude today's episode, let's remember that beyond burnout lies a path to renewal and resilience. By prioritizing our health and being, we empower ourselves to excel professionally while living fulfilling and balancing lives. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. We are interested in feedback on our episodes and learning what topics you may be interested in for future episodes. Please follow us on Instagram, Your Health is Wealth Podcast. Also, our website, yourhealthiswealth.com. And is spelled with a Z instead of an S for yourhealthiswealth.com. The link to the website is also found on the Instagram bio as well. On our website, we list the episodes, and there is an online form where you can fill it out, share your feedback, ask questions, share input on future topics, and also contact us if you're interested in being featured on the podcast. Topic scope is related to health and wellness. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast today and look forward to more. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.